Well, welcome to this session of Authors in Conversation. I'm really excited to be talking about Richard Paterson's new book, Let's Fix Our Social Fabric. Now, Richard, you're nearly over the line there. We've gone into the layout, well and truly the layout phase, and the cover design has all been done. And you're going to be speaking, of course, at the Author Showcase on the 28th of October. But first, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the background to the book. What motivated you to write it?
Yeah, okay. Thanks for the opportunity to come on here and talk about something I'm really passionate about. So thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. So I guess the origin is that I have a fundamental belief that we as a society, we're actually created to live in community. And I think to our detriment, we've declined in our capacity to live appropriately and create communities to live within. And I'm not just talking about, like a village type community, but I mean just clusters of people that have something in common and that operate to support each other and bring out the best in each other. I'm very involved in a football club, and so I think football clubs and schools are about the last two bastions of community. And I watch the involvement of people at the footy club, and I just see how healthy and helpful the community is for the people that operate within it. And I guess I've just been fascinated in that for quite a few years now. And one of my observations was that what we used to do through relational interaction, often now we do as a transaction, which means that we kind of have this decline in interactive relationships. And I think that that's to our detriment. And it bothers me where that trajectory is taking us as a species. So a few years ago, I guess it started a little bit like journaling. And I thought, how can I document my observations and my perceptions of what's going on? And I eventually, in bold and capitals, was able to finish writing a book about it. But it's amazing, how things, end up working for our good, because I hoped to have my book, I think I started it in 2019, and I hoped to have it done, somewhere early 2020. And then here we are in 2023 and it's about to go to print. But the great thing is that I spent, 2 years in Melbourne, a lot of that time in lockdown in the COVID-19 era. And I learned so much about the importance of community through those lockdowns. So as a result, a lot of the content of my book is commentary on my observations about living in Victoria during lockdown and the impact of being deprived of the opportunity to live in community. And it's my read on it. I'm not pretending to be academic or intellectual. I'm just a garden variety bloke that's noticed some stuff that bothers him. And I guess I just wanted to find out if there's anybody else that's interested.
Yeah, Richard, and look, there's a great part in your book that I really love, where it's you and your adventures with your lawnmower around your neighbourhood. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much because I want people to read it in my book.
Fair enough, fair enough.
But essentially, during the lockdowns, I had just moved to a new house and I didn't know anybody in the street. And obviously during lockdown's a hard time to get to know your neighbours. I kind of like to be a solutions guy rather than a problem guy. And it was funny, my mum's struggling with, this is a bit of a side thing, but my mum's struggling with dementia at the moment. And it was interesting, her geriatrician made a really interesting observation. She said that mum is able to find a problem for every solution. And I would like to think that I take the opposite approach and that I find a solution to every problem. So I'm solution focused. So in the frustration of being locked down and being deprived of community in Victoria during COVID, I was out mowing the lawn one day and I thought maybe I could serve my neighbours by mowing all the nature strips in the street. So I went ahead and did that, and a number of things evolved out of that, one of which was we had a WhatsApp group in the street, and a number of people who had fruit trees started posting on WhatsApp that, I've picked a box of lemons or a box of limes or persimmons or whatever, and I've put them out by the letterbox. Come down and help yourself if you want them. And then one day, one of the ladies in the street posted on WhatsApp and said, we need to thank Richard for turning our court into a community by mowing the lawn. And I thought, we don't have to take on the world to start creating community. And like our street, imagine if one person in every street became the community crusader and they set about turning their street into a community. We could transform the world if we did that. Imagine if one suburb focused on that and said, okay, we want somebody in every street to be the crusader for community in their street. And, unintentionally, I had an impact on our street. And I also noticed that a few houses had fairly dishevelled front yards. And in my counselling training, we learned that the external world is a reflection of the internal world. And I was reminded of that as I saw people's disorganised front yards. And I thought, that's probably a reflection of something going on in their inner world. So I went and knocked on the door to this first place and I said, look, I'm just mowing all the lawn, the nature strip. Is okay to do your front lawn? And this middle-aged lady said, yeah, that'd be great. I'm sure Mum would really appreciate that. So I did that, and I ended up doing about, I think, 4 lawns in the street. And I hope I can hold it together as I put the tagline on this story, because it's still really emotional for me. Because after having mowed the lawn about, I think, 5 times, a middle-aged man came out of the house who I'd never seen before and thanked me for mowing the lawns on behalf of his mum. And it turned out that the mum was an elderly lady who had been receiving palliative care in the house for 3 months, and hence mowing the lawn was a very low priority. And so unbeknown to me, each time I was mowing the lawn, there was actually a lady receiving palliative care in the process of dying inside the house. And the interesting thing was that the son was quite teary and emotional when he was telling me that his mum had died the week before. And we sat down on the steps of the front veranda and had about a 20-minute conversation. He just poured his heart out about, the pain that he was experiencing with his mum. And the lesson that it taught me was, in reality, I was a stranger, but because I had served their family unknowingly, having served their family in that way, there was this bizarre supportive relationship had been developed. And to me, that's the encapsulation of what community is all about. When we serve each other, then we have this bond of trust develops between us. And I just think humanity's better off when we operate like that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Richard. And also that you say the word humanity and the word serve. For me, the word that came up also when I'm listening to you is kindness. Little bit of kindness, little bit of generosity. It was your generosity of spirit to be mowing other people's lawns that then opened up an opportunity that you couldn't have envisaged, but it gave a younger man an opportunity to really feel his feelings. If we know one thing about men, they're not necessarily that good at feeling their feelings, which brings me to the sign behind you there, Richard, the Basics for Blokes, which is your new business. I don't think we're going too far off topic for you to be telling us about that, because this, again, is about community.
Yeah. So Basics for Blokes came out of my personal health journey. And so the mission of Basics for Blokes is to encourage and empower men to take ownership of their health. And that came about because I'm a single dad. I raised my son on my own since he was 4. He's now 22. And in that, there was a 2-year period there where I was confronted with a pretty serious health challenge. And I'd ignored it because I was so busy with all the other stuff that was going on. And then one morning I woke up and I thought, what happens to my little boy if this becomes cancer? And it was like a moment like that. And I thought, I need to take ownership of my health. I need to be the boss of my health. And for a guy who knows nothing about health, I ended up reversing all my medical markers and lost 50 kilograms because the excess weight was obviously making me more vulnerable to the condition that I had getting worse. And what I realized was that I think there's a tendency for men to neglect their health, but no guy wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'm going to ignore my health today. But also, guys don't wake up and think, why do I need to look after my health today? And I guess that's the question I'm starting a campaign for guys to start asking. And if I find the reason why they need to take ownership of their health. And interestingly, again, it comes back to this community thing, that the work that I'm doing in men's health, by far the greatest cluster of reasons that guys come up with to take ownership of their health are based around relationships. I mean, even a lot of guys that, you know, when you really dig into it, I do a lot of work with business owners. And, you know, during COVID, one of the drivers of stress was their concern that if the business goes under, their employees can't pay their mortgages, they can't pay their rent, they can't pay their kids' school fees. So these business owners have a sense of responsibility towards their employees, which is a relationship. And, you know, lots of guys, it's, you know, for the sake of their partner. I think by far the greatest reason most guys take ownership of their health is for their kids. You know, that's why I did, because I wanted to make sure my little boy had a dad. And like my situation was that critical. You know, there was potential that, you know, my little boy may have been dadless. So we're trying to kind of build a bit of community around guys and looking at the way guys interact and support each other and trying to create environments. Like we've just started a men's cooking course. And it's really interesting that after one night, the bonds and the relationships and friendships that were created, but you have to get guys together with a purpose and a focus. You know, they won't just get together and have a cup of tea and a chat. So, you know, whether it's cooking or whatever, community building orientated, what I do. Because I just think that as a species, we were created to live in community. And a lot of the problems that we have now are because we've lost that mode of living. You know, we're so individual and independent and autonomous, and it doesn't work. It clearly doesn't work. So let's fix it.
Fantastic. And in fact, that leads to the name of the book, doesn't it? Let's Fix Our Social Fabric.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful title. And people can hear you talking about it at the State Library of New South Wales on the 28th of October. And of course, we'll be putting the link to go and buy the book under this video. So, Richard, thank you so much. It's wonderful talking to you. And it's a fabulous book that I think the ripple effect, we can't know what it is, but I think it's going to be big.
I hope so. Yep. And thanks for all your help, Jan. I really appreciate it. There were many times when you would have been quite justified giving up on me, but you didn't.
I never give up, Richard. I never give up.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. I certainly tested you on that. But no, very excited about the 28th of October at the State Library. I'm really pumped